Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new video from MinnMax. MinnMax is a place about games, friends, getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. I'm joined by Giant Bomb's Dan Ryckert.
Hello.
And the real man of the hour, Charles Hart. Welcome, sir.
The man.
So back in 2003, let me tell you this tale. Dan Ryckert went up to Game Informer to shoot a commercial because he worked for GameStop. We talk about it in the other video. You can watch that Metal Gear parody in the other video here. But because Dan was there, correct me if I'm wrong, you decided to just film a short documentary with everybody in the Game Informer office in 2003.
If I remember right, I kind of pitched it to them as like, hey, while I'm there, it'd be fun if I could just kind of pull you aside and ask you some questions, do a little documentary about what it's like to work at Game Informer. I don't remember ever having a plan to do anything with that or even really edit it. I'm pretty sure I just used that as like a Trojan horse to like vet if my dream job was going to be as cool as I thought it was.
Right.
So it was an excuse to talk to all of them instead of just like, okay, let's shoot the Metal Gear thing and then I'm out of here. See ya. I wanted just an excuse to talk to them. Like, I really don't know if I ever even intended to edit it.
And then over 20 years later, somebody with a work ethic comes along named Charles Hart.
Yes.
And Charles then cut it together into a functioning documentary, which we'll present to you now and we'll unpack it all afterwards. But without further ado, here's a documentary about Game Informer in 2003.
Snake, have you reached the infiltration point?
Yes, the target is visible.
Good. Let's try that again. What do you think are some of the factors contributing to the growing mainstream popularity of video games?
You know, when video games first came out, there just weren't a lot of people that were used to them, and as the gamers that were born with video games grow up, I mean, a lot of them aren't stopping. So, I mean, that's what's changed from it being like kind of a thing for kids to a thing that's more for adults and for everybody. And as the market grows and people grow up that are accepting of video games, it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Is Andy in his office?
That might be the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Do you still have the same excitement for video games now as you did before it was your job to play them?
Yeah, you know, when I still get home, you know, I'd say the Grand Theft Auto Vice City Strategy Guide. I did that for 90 hours 1 week, and then the next week I went home and played Vice City. Outside of video games, I like to do a lot of physical stuff because here at work we can just kind of sit around all day and play games. Hobbies like lifting weights and professional wrestling, which I've been doing since about as long as I've been a Game Informer.
This is stupid.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big sports fan. I mean, as far as video games go, I mean, I obviously love the sports games, but there's plenty of other genres and titles and franchises that I get into just as much.
Now, if you had one game, if you don't have one game to play for the rest of your life, what would it be?
You know, the obvious Super Mario Brothers. It's obvious for a reason. I mean, it's just a great game, along with any of the great memories that people my age have.
I think if I had one game on a desert island, I would probably take Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for NES. Just because with any kind of adventure type game, I mean, you're eventually going to finish pretty much all there is to finish. And with Tyson, I feel like I could at least have a good time every time I played it, even if I had sort of mastered it. Either that or something, you know, Tetris wouldn't be a bad choice just because it's pretty hard to get sick of Tetris. I actually got this job by playing in a band. Sort of in a roundabout fashion, because Andy was playing in this band I played in. I asked if I could intern for free, so I worked here kind of just coming in after, I was in college at the time, so I'd come in after class and just work here for free, and then I went back to college, and then they ended up offering me a job based on just, because I'd worked on the website in college.
Is it going to look like that?
No, these are like...
prototypes.
Where's the actual?
they're like ROMs, so this one's different because I think they had to build that solar sense.
So this is that Sun game?
Yeah, you might be able to get a shot of me having to freaking go outside to play.
So is this your first month on?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Second week.
Okay, so I have like questions like, what's the worst game you've had to review? Like, have you not reviewed any yet?
It's not going to apply because I've only playing my second game, second or third game.
How is it?
It's pretty bad.
Is it really?
Could be good.
How's the whole space dinosaur setting?
Well,
that's actually the best part of it.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that it's horrible camera angles and is very repetitive.
Did it take away kind of the survival horror thing? Or is it's more action based?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, who would win in a fist fight, Mario or Luigi?
I think I'm gonna go with Luigi. I think he wants it more. He's got something to prove. He's got the reach. He's got the height. Mario's probably getting a little lazy and complacent these days. He doesn't need to win a fight. Luigi, he needs it.
I'd say probably Mario simply because I bet Miyamoto would probably pull some strings on that one.
Let's say they met in the back alley and Miyamoto is nowhere near.
Probably Luigi. I think the guy's got a lot of resentment.
You know, Mario just has the star power. He knows how to be a champion. Luigi's just a hanger-on, so.
I'd give it to Mario because Mario, he works a little more consistently than Luigi. Luigi takes a lot of time off, so I think he might get a lot of shape in between games.
They're both probably too wussy to hit either one.
Oh no. You played Smash Brothers? How much of this do you usually get a month?
Probably like 20 a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What are the two different files here?
Yes. Maybe.
Okay.
Alright. Nice.
Most of the envelope art like pertain to, a current hot game, or it's usually just all over the place?
Mostly Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh!
Really?
Yeah, tons of it.
Wow.
But there's a Turtle games coming out, so we've got Turtle stuff.
Cool.
Lots of Turtle stuff.
What do you say is the best video game hero of all time?
Best hero of all time. I knew who my favorite bad guy is.
That's the next question.
Favorite bad guy, Psycho Mantis. I love
Yes.
Psycho Mantis. But Psycho Mantis is just awesome.
I like Psycho Mantis. I thought he was just crazy cool, when he was talking to me and moving my controller around. I really enjoyed that.
Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear Solid was pretty memorable.
Psycho Mantis has to be up there, of course.
Psycho Mantis, I heard a lot of other people saying that.
Yeah.
But he's awesome.
I guess if I had to pick one good guy, I think I might pick Gordon Freeman, just because he's a dork.
Yeah.
He kicks ass.
I guess you gotta go with Mario for best hero, just on longevity alone.
Max Payne cracks me up. I really like Max Payne's really over the top kind of tough guy persona that's almost kind of funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Solid Snake, actually.
I'm going to say this again. It's kind of an odd answer, but I can't even remember his name, but the lead character of Vagrant Story.
Now, when you guys put together the top 100 issue, how do you take, like 8 or 9 different people with different opinions and merge it all into one, definitive list?
Well, one of our editors was on the case, and he went through all Game Informers and put together any game that scored an 875 or up. And then we just took a bunch of PC games, and we had help from readers. Readers gave us suggestions.
The original list, I think, for the top 100 was 650, 675 games. And then basically at that point we sat in a room and talked to each other and tried to fight our way down. I mean, it was one of those things, and you ask yourself, is the game still fun to play now? But you make concessions, you want this game to be on there, this guy wants this to be on there. Eventually you kind of fight it out and something wins.
And then last thing here isn't really a question, it's more of a word association thing. I'll just mention something, you just tell me first thing that comes to mind about him. Nintendo.
Underperforming.
Classic.
Quality.
They don't really know how to change with the times.
I think Nintendo has ridden on sort of its kind of past for a long time, and I think they're finally starting to run out of gas. But hopefully we should see in the next 2 years, maybe see a rebirth, I think.
Online gaming?
Fun. Cool.
I view it more for the downloadable content, say Tony Hawk's Underground, putting your face in.
A whole mess of trouble. A whole mess of trouble.
At the moment, it's very big to a very small core group of people, and I say very small, but a minority group of people. It does kind of have to be part of the future, but gameplay will still be king.
I'm not entirely sure it's as much of the future as a lot of people think it is.
Superman 64.
God awful.
I'm glad I didn't play it. It's one of those things. It's like doing the Macarena. It's something that I've never done and never will do.
Do you still have the same excitement for video games now as you did before it was your job?
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I wouldn't be here for as long as I have been, or leave work and go home and play more video games.
Charles, what's a pain in the butt to cut together?
So it's nice in that. So Dan goes around and gives like little Q&As to all these individual
hard-hitting questions. There's a reason I'm a journalist and a serious one at that.
So it was fun to like stitch them together and find the through lines of like, okay, this is a good point to transition to this B-roll to introduce this person to do whatever. So like I had fun stitching something out of what is like admittedly kind of messy.
Yeah.
But the whole vibe is fascinating to me. We said this in the video from yesterday, but I was 3 when this was filmed.
You got to stop saying that.
So just seeing like the concept, I mean, even just being in games media now, the concept of getting a game to review in the mail is very foreign.
Right.
The idea of like, I have a physical review copy. So like seeing them be like, oh yeah, this is like, what was that game called?
Boktai.
Well, yeah, them having the physical cartridge in there, and it's like not a finished version of what a Game Boy cartridge looks like.
Cool.
Oh, and back in the day, it'd be like 64. I mean, that's a little before my time, but 64. If you ever saw those, they were like super tall 64 cartridges. So like the proportions up here were the same, but then it just had like a really long, like you just like clone stamped it in Photoshop and brought it down.
Yeah,
it's gotta be bizarre. But Dan, I mean, not renowned for your interview skills, if I may say that.
Never have been.
I will say, in this, when you were talking about like, what do you think about online gaming and the future of online gaming? Like, hey, that's standing the test of time. That's an interesting question to ask them, Dan. Way to go.
Thank you. I did love Andy's response of a whole mess of trouble. The guy,
and he was right.
He's on my Mount Rushmore of guys I know that got really into online games. So for him to be like, maybe he was talking about himself. Like, it's going to be a whole mess of trouble, this online stuff.
Boy, I hope a game called World of Warcraft doesn't come out next year. That'd be awfully bad for me.
Have you seen this EverQuest? Let me tell you about Destiny. The Psycho Mantis thing was fascinating. Seeing so many people say Psycho Mantis.
I assumed by the 4th or 5th one that they were hearing other people say Psycho Mantis because the office, they're not like closed in like
rooms. Andy was in his office, and I guess the rest were in that like first bullpen area.
Yeah. And I'm like, played Metal Gear Solid for the first time this year. I was like, yeah, he's great. I understand it now. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I just fascinating. It's so unanimous. I also, and Ben keeps sarcastically praising your interview skills, but this is a genuine question, and it might just sound kind of mean.
Please.
The level of energy in the interviews is really low from you, but also from them.
Yeah.
Is that like a culture? Because am I just from an era where everyone has seen YouTube videos and they want to start a video like, "What's up, guys? We're here and we're going to ask the Redditors some questions."
That Game Informer office was famous for its gas leak. We should have mentioned.
Okay,
Charles, I think you're onto something because it's like now kids your age, are used to growing up with phone cameras and stuff like that. Sorry to call you a kid. Young people, they are used to always having cameras in their face and know when they're on and stuff like that. Like back then, like when I was growing up, and it was like the only time you'd see yourself on a screen was if you're walking through Kmart through like the camera section, and they would have a bunch of CRTs set up. You're like, "Hey, look, I'm on TV.
Give me my soul back." Yeah.
People were not used to being on camera, and I think like interviews and things like that, like. I had never really done a lot of those. This is probably like one of the only times I had ever done one of those. So like, I don't have any sense of what to ask or what kind of energy to bring to it. And this is before Game Informer had podcasts or streams or anything like that. So they weren't used to it.
But
so
also,
there's really no reason to have like flexed that muscle.
Yeah.
Also, though, it's interesting to think of like not that far away from the 90s, and I think being cool back in that era, again, maybe it is just the influence of YouTube and we're all podcasters now, whether you want to be or not. Maybe it is that era of just like, to be cool, you have to be the most subdued, most chill. Like I'm not going to try, man. Like, so everyone kind of has that vibe combined with probably the nerves of Dan. But I loved you, Dan, trying to like slip in your knowledge, and God bless you for it, where you're like,
what's the most egregious?
No, I think you did a great job of like when they're playing Dino Crisis 3. And you're like, oh, so does this sci-fi theme kind of like undercut the survival horror nature of the game? It's like, you're trying to be like, I know my stuff, Game Informer. It's sweet to see.
It's a genuine question.
It was a great question.
Well, it was about dinosaurs instead of zombies. I'm wondering that
very,
now.
very valid question.
Thank you. I'm getting to the bottom of it.
And your question was much more interesting than their answer, which was like, yeah, that's like the best part about it. It's kind of, I don't know.
No,
it's so wild to me.
I will not accept a single comment on this YouTube post that's like, these guys were so dumb. I can't believe they said Nintendo wasn't trying hard and stuff. Like, I give them
2003, people were not thinking too highly of Nintendo.
right, but also at the same time, it's like they're trying to do their damn job, and this dopey kid is shoving a camera in their face, distracting them. So I think all of them in the back of their mind is like, who is this idiot? What is this GameStop thing? What is this crap? Like, leave me alone, please.
I was also there for a week. And
what?
So I'm there way longer than I needed to be. And the shark suit thing, I bought that at the Mall of America. And so, like, I think by the end of the week, I had shot all the stuff I want to shoot. And I'm just like hanging out in a shark suit, running around. Do you want to do a thing where you're playing football with the shark? Do you want to, like, dumb stuff like that?
This was multiple days?
I was confused because I saw Andy's shirt change. I'm like, what's going on here?
Oh my gosh.
Well, actually, no, I'm looking here and I'm looking at the thing I sent them, the letter, and it does look like it was August 4th through the 6th. So at least 3 days at the office. Okay. And I remember they set me and Quo up in a hotel that is still there across the street from there. And so we just walked over every day. But they also gave us a corporate like card. And like that was in the mail. It's like, hey, use this for your expenses. Use this for cabs. Use this for food. And I remember me and Quo went to that downtown Target and we just bought every snack food, garbage thing. Like we just filled up this hotel with Cheez-Its and Doritos and popcorn and stuff. Then we go to the Mall of America and they had some costume store or something. And we bought the shark suit on the corporate card. We went to a Twins game at the Metrodome and bought a bunch of like hot dogs. Like we weren't old enough to drink. So we were just like buying a bunch of junk food and shark suits and stuff. On GameStop's dime.
In the last year I was at Game Informer, I don't know if they personally paid for any of us to travel anywhere. I think it was all covered by publishers, and we had like a stipend to use for food.
So they were swimming in it.
It was so wild.
Just the glory days.
I also find it so interesting in their answers to the questions. One is the attitude towards Nintendo, which is a thing I had heard about at the time, but like to hear people say it so explicitly is interesting. And then two, it kind of comes across in your questions, Dan, but I think it's also the way they respond is like this kind of vying for legitimacy. There's a question you asked that I didn't put in this cut, but it's in the extended cut. You ask about like Hollywood actors being put into video games and the idea of like, do you think eventually video games are gonna be like a big thing everyone's gonna care about, as opposed to now where they are big, but I think people that like video games are satisfied to be like, it probably varies, but being like, yeah, these are video games and they're their own thing, and I don't need Brad Pitt to star in whatever new Mario game.
Yeah, I think at that point you were starting to see signs of that, where it's like, oh, we're doing these like GameCube launch parties with Paris Hilton and Elijah Wood, and they're taking pictures with Smash Brothers. But here's the Mr. Show guys playing Smash Brothers or whatever. And I think it was that 360 era where you start seeing these giant like Call of Duties and just these huge budgets and huge sales and stuff. Like I think that's when it got to that point. But I think there was that, like you said, vying for legitimacy that you saw. It's like, oh, this is our nerd hobby. This is this niche thing, and it's like, oh, maybe it's going to be accepted. Grand Theft Auto, Madden, Halo, it's getting big,
Yeah. I was a sucker for, my favorite part, I think, in this footage was Lisa Mason going through the reader art.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's great to have her in there. And then also at the same time, like, how much footage is there of people sorting through reader art for a video game magazine from that era? Like, I don't think there's that much. Dan, you're a historian. You didn't even know it, man.
Yeah, well, I also did reader art for several years at Game Informer, so in my mind, I have way too many hours of memories of going through bad reader art. What if Mario fought Ezio?
Hang on, seriously, what would happen? What if Goku was there?
It'd be crazy. They should make that game.
No doubt.
Did you draw Mario fighting Ezio? Sorry, was that just
no? There was a lot of reader art was just like, it would literally be like Mario Creed, and it would be like Mario in an Ezio suit, or it was always, what if this guy from this game fought this guy from this game? Like it was always that.
Yeah.
I'm picturing Mario with a hidden blade stabbed into Ezio's back saying, Arrivederci.
See, Charles,
I probably went through that and then threw it in the trash.
You're one step away from drawing that art yourself. We can see the flicker in your eye.
I actually got uncomfortably excited to tell you Mario saying Arrivederci there. But I was like, oh no. Oh gosh.
Well, thank you for cutting this together, Charles. It's wild to me that it was sitting around for so long. And now I hope the world enjoys this glimpse into Game Informer in 2003.
It was surreal for me to watch, Charles, the stuff that I shot 21 years ago and just has sat on a mini DV tape for decades. And to see it cut together now and watch, I was like, this is so weird. I'm so glad this happened. So yeah, Charles, great work on this.
Well, thanks for trusting me with your art.
It's all a collaboration. And again,
My
you can
scheme to get hired.
But yeah, you can check out the other video on MinnMax's YouTube channel if you want to see Dan's Metal Gear commercial, which is why he was visiting the Game Informer office. But then also on MinnMax's YouTube channel, we have a whole celebration of Game Informer where we have some of those old editors reacting to a GameStop made promotional video. Not as professional as Dan Ryckert's, but one that GameStop made. They hadn't seen it. A lot of them forgot that it existed. So that reaction video is on MinnMax's channel. We have the final episode of Super Replay ever with Marcus Stewart and Kyle Hilliard playing and wrapping up Majora's Mask. That's on MinnMax's channel if you want to check that out. Kyle Hilliard and Serial Vasquez and Ben Reeves and Leo Vader revived 6 stunts. They played some Spider-Man 2, an old Game Informer classic. A ton in there. But we do have one big video coming up still for the celebration of Game Informer, kind of the grand finale that is still in the works, but it is a larger documentary, not made by Dan Ryckert, but one that we were filming for years and years and years and years and years. And so I'm excited to get that out the door. So you can subscribe to MinnMax's YouTube channel and get ready for that in the future. Or you can help support independent games media directly by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, jump in at the Backstage Pass tier, the $10 tier, where you'll get access to a ton of extended versions of our content, including the extended version of this video, where it is just the raw tape of everything that Dan shot up there at Game Informer. So him doing that.
Me and Matt Helgeson talk about gangs of New York. There you go.
Some people do, man. Dan, thank you for being here. Giant Bomb, place to be. Fire Escape Podcast, place to be to if you want to listen to things.
You took the words out of my mouth.
All right, great. Charles, what do you want to plug?
Follow me on the world at ChuckDuck365, and you can read my stuff at the Indie Informer, where I write about indie games.
And Charles Hart is the greatest DM or GM you could possibly imagine, and now he's freelancing his services. So if people are looking to get into tabletop stuff, Charles, and they want the greatest possible person to shepherd them through that, what should they do?
You can DM me on Twitter. I think I'm gonna have like a more maybe I'll time it so when this video goes up, I'll have a proper post on my Twitter and or Blue Sky. But I'll do Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and then if you've ever just like want to get into role playing in general, Roll for Shoes is a very cool entry point that I like playing with people. So if you just check that out, ChuckDuck365.
Awesome, great, Dan. Thank you for archiving history. Greatly appreciate it. You've done a service on that greedy day back in the day of getting GameStop's money and trying to shoehorn your way into this career. You know what? Lo and behold, you did the world better.
Well, thanks for putting it back out there. It was really cool for me to see as well. It's been a while.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Arrivederci.